Yeah, I mean, I think let's start at I think the principle of the discussion right now is the offense. So let's start there for a little bit. Then we'll get into some defense, we'll get into some coaching, and then definitely want to make time, call up Kevin, get his thoughts. But I definitely want to make time to get into this really important Buccaneers game though. So first and foremost, let's kind of dissect what we saw from the offense. I think you hit a couple of the high level points really early on there where I thought one of my favorite questions as it pertains to the beginning of this game and the offense is Sean McDermott got asked yesterday. And this is something that if you follow me or you listen to my takes or whether it's Twitter or whether it's here or elsewhere, where I say all the time, like, I'm not sure that I love putting the defense on the field to start with. Now we'll get into the defensive side of the discussion in a little bit here. But with some of the rankings and things that we'll get into, putting them on the field to start with, we'll have to make sure that that's the right decision going forward. And to the point where I've harped on that even when the defense was good. And McDermott got asked that yesterday, which I was shocked by. I didn't think anybody cared. I didn't think that there was any real data. And I did some research into this, Mike, and this is something I want to talk about here. This segment is there's only been twice there's been a double dip, and that's the number one thing I've heard about. 7 games, 2 double dips. One produced 0 points back to back. The other produced 7 and 7 against the Raiders. So there was 2 opportunities for a double dip. So now we have to see if that opportunity there is strong enough to go down in football games. One of the biggest things I've heard as it pertains to the offensive side of the ball is slow starts. It's getting down in games. It's not playing till midway through the third or the fourth quarter. It's generally been the biggest talking point that's been up in my mind or that's been asked to me. And I think the way to do that is flip the possessions so that you get more. That's what a deferment is. You're taking the ball more and hopefully longer in the second half because you perceive that hopefully you're getting a double dip if that's possible. But put that aside. You're hoping to get more possessions and better possessions in the second half. Maybe that's why you see their offense coming together better in the second half. There's more possessions. The defense is tired. They're utilizing maybe a different style. They can adjust to the game plan and tempo. There's many reasons why you want those possessions in the back end against a tired defense. So that's the philosophy. But on an offensive perspective, Mike, you had a rub route that was called on Latavius Murray to start the game. I thought it was borderline. And these calls in every game, this isn't a Bills complaint, are affecting football games. And it is what it is. Just on the other side of the ball later in the game, Kendrick Bourne is Gesicki is blocking downfield and takes 3 Bills defenders out of the play. Textbook offensive pass interference, not called. I don't mind that not getting called, but don't call Latavius Murray then. So that is my first argument. So that's 4 points off the board. You mentioned a really important thing that I wanted to address too. That's the missed field goals. At some point on a onesie-twosie basis, you get over it because you have so many possessions. But on a basis where you need your special teams to come through, I don't know. I think that you need your high-end, important, re-signed, extended kicker to keep you in games in terms of getting you the points that you need. There's 7 points right off the bat in a very simplified version right there, Mike. So did you have any opinions on the first half offense? What is your opinion on that Latavius Murray call? I mean, you have an opportunity to hit Diggs deep, wide open, great scheme. It's literally everything you're looking for and just doesn't connect. But everything about it would tell you that was a high-end, high-impact play.
Yeah, so my thoughts about the offense in the first half, I actually think the thing that kind of is interesting about the offense is I don't think that the offense has been horrendous by any stretch of the imagination. I think what more so is happening is they're finding ways not to finish drives. And that is what we're starting to get aggravated with. This used to be an offense that was based around explosive plays, where they were getting big chunks in the passing game, where you would see them go on these 3-4 play, 70-yard drives, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 5 plays, 65 yards, 3 minutes, 35 seconds. Now these drives are 10 to 12 plays, 65 yards, 6.5 minutes. What has essentially happened, and for those that listen to me on Spaces, you'll know where I'm going with this, but essentially NFL defenses have caught up to the offenses across the league. Explosive plays are at their lowest mark since 2009. So as a result, scoring is down dramatically across the NFL. In 2020, when the Bills had Dable and they had all their weapons, they were averaging 29.5 points a game. But scoring at that point in the NFL for a combined points per game number was around 50. Right now in the NFL this year, scoring points per game is 43 points per game. So that's an entire touchdown based on two teams. So there is currently 12 teams in the NFL averaging under 20 points per game. And there's 25 teams in the NFL currently averaging under 25 points a game. So 12 teams can't even average 20 at this point, and 25 are averaging less than what the Bills scored on Sunday. And the Chiefs are only averaging 25.4 points a game. So what's happening right now is when you take away explosive plays, if you want to be aggressive, you're going to have more turnover-worthy plays. You're going to be forced to throw into double coverage. You're going to be forced to throw into a lot of difficult situations. And as we saw week 1 against the Jets, that's not always a good thing. So when you have a great offense and you normally have a great defense, what's the head coach's thought process as a result of that? Well, let's play a little bit more conservatively. Let's protect the ball. Let's run the ball more. Let's play for the chains, not go for these long bombs. And we're still a great defense. We're still a great team. We should be able to beat inferior competition. The issue now is I don't think they ever anticipated their offense struggling to put up points the way they are in the first halves of these games, and then doubling it down with the defense having trouble stopping teams. So you kind of have a worst case scenario now of where your offense is afraid of taking chances, but your defense can't hold your opponents down, which makes the mistakes that you do make have that much more of an impact. And I think early in the year, a lot of people wanted to be like, well, this is all on Dorsey, and Dorsey definitely does play a role on it. But I think what the tape on Sunday really shows is that you have a quarterback right now that is not making the right checks on the offensive line, who is not anticipating blitzing properly, and he's not hitting his hot takes when they are sending pressure. And because they're not taking these chances down the field, there's no way of really helping them out when they get behind the chains. So in the past, if the Bills had a 2nd and 10, they could confidently throw it to the sticks and know that they could make a play. Teams are taking those things away from them. So essentially what the Bills are trying to do, they're trying to get into 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, short, easier to execute. When the Bills are 3rd and 7 or longer, they only convert 25% of the time. When it's 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 6, they convert close to 60% of the time. And when it's 3rd and 3 or less, they convert 75% of the time. The Bills still have the 3rd highest percentage of converting first downs or touchdowns per chain. So the metrics are still very positive about this Bills offense, but what we're starting to see, and I'll wrap this up soon, Kevin, what we're starting to see is what teams have done, what the Bills have done to their opponents offensively the last 3-4 years is what teams are now doing to the Bills. We've always said with Buffalo, the reason they can play a nickel defense is they dare teams to run against them because they don't believe that over the course of 60 minutes, teams are going to be able to sustain 3, 4, 10 to 12 plus play drives for 50, 60 yards and score 25 points. Teams are now doing that to the Bills, where they're making the Bills go on these long drives. And you need to be more consistent in order to have success in that. And you can see this. This is what I was talking about earlier with the touchdown or first down numbers. The Bills still have great efficiency numbers, but they need to find a way to avoid some of these situationally horrible mistakes that are really plaguing the offense right now overall, especially in the first half of games.
Yeah, situationally, you'll see here on the screen, this is how often that your drive ends in a first down or a touchdown. And that's every drive, every new set of sticks, to be clear. So the Bills do it just as well as the Dolphins. They just have a few ticks more where they're going to kick a field goal. Just a tiny bit difference of their offenses. This isn't like an eye test thing isn't a deep dive DVOA. This is a simple, like, how successful is every drive that the team has. So this is a really digestible chart that shows you that, like, the punt turnover rates that the Bills have are just with everybody else's. Like, the 49ers are a little low, but they're starting to tick up after their performance yesterday. But the fact is, Josh Allen is Josh Allen because they don't punt, and they still don't really punt, even during some of their struggles. So the basis of why you become a good football team is to convert first downs. First downs equals further down the field, equals more time of possession, equals points, right? So the more times you can do that, your EPA is better, obviously, because you're converting first downs. A 5-yard pass on 3rd and 4 is a very positive play, right? It's pretty obvious. But a 5-yard pass on 3rd and 9 is not very positive. You're punting, lowers your analytics numbers. The Bills are very good at that, right? So the number one question I get asked all the time is, Kevin, why doesn't this match what the Bills look like? Like, what's the problem? So the variance here in these situations is a 60-minute football games. First of all, variance, right? So Mike and I have already talked about a couple of plays that just change the course of a game. A rub route is 4 points. On that call alone is a 4-point penalty. That alone would start to bring up the Bills' overall box score points, right? A missed field goal brings up the overall Bills' box score points. Those are the results of these analytics that, unfortunately, the Bills have hit some anomalies. Now, you can go two ways with this and say, I'm over this. I want to see what happens. I think the team stinks. I think that those anomalies are too frequent. Then you can think that, and we'll see if that ends up being correct. And then what will happen, guys, is that EPA and all these metrics that some people hate, it's come to my attention that some people really hate, that they will get lowered to match your eye test. Or the product on the field is going to be elevated to prove that some of these statistics are right. Now, I wanted to bring up this tendency because I get asked all the time about, like, shotgun and let's go empty or not ever go empty. I only want to be in single back the whole time. Like, I've heard it all, but the data that breaks it down is the Bills are still pretty efficient out of empty. They pass 100% of the time out of it, obviously, but they've only used it 55 times. So that's essentially like one game's worth of playing empty. Like, if you would have played empty the entire game, that's about the amount of snaps that they have. And they're number 4 in the league in it. Okay. So they're very effective, 0.27 as a positive ratio. The overall number out of gun is barely over 0. So the Bills are really effective in empty. So will they go to that, Mike? Do you see them changing their formation tendency that he's been asked about this week?
I do think they're going to change their formations, especially with Knox out of the fold. I think you're going to see a lot more 11 going forward. Probably not much.
All right, let's look at it. There you go.
Probably not much 12 in the upcoming weeks. And the one thing I do want to point out, because I feel like we get a lot of throwback by fans when we talk about EPA, DVOA, stuff like that, because there's a lot of frustration. Well, how are they still this high in offensive efficiency charts and these analytics when they look so bad for 3 consecutive games? And what will lead a lot of people to say is, well, they do it because they blow out the really bad teams and they can't do it against some other teams. They're not consistent. And there is a high variance, but I went back to the 2021 season. There was a lot of variance that year with Brian Dable and the Bills offense that season, where they were up and down. And a lot of the numbers prove that. I think this is the most important thing that fans really need to understand. And this will probably make it a little bit easier to understand. EPA by season. In 2020, the Bills were 1.89. In 2021, it was 0.140. 2022, 0.11. And now, right now, it's a 0.092. So that would basically say during those 4 years, the offense has regressed every single year. Now, on the surface, you'd say, okay, that confirms what I was seeing with my eyes. The offense is getting worse. Things are becoming more difficult. The issue at hand is during those 2020 and 21 seasons, when you're having historic offenses, even when you're having that 0.189, there's a bunch of other teams that are right near you with very similar EPA. So what's important to look at is not compare yourself numbers 1 year to another year. It's like, say there's a season where everybody's averaging 25 points a game. Well, if you're averaging 35 points a game, that's a really good offense. But then if there's another season where everybody's averaging 35 points a game and you're averaging 30, you're still averaging 30, but now you're a really bad offense because you're behind the curve. What's happening is that these defenses right now have caught up to the high volume passing attacks in the NFL. That's why you see the Bills running it more, because that is one of the ways to kind of counteract it. You try to set up more manageable third downs and second downs so you can keep moving the chains. The Bills have not found the answers on how to attack some of these defenses right now. And a lot of people who just watch the Bills would say that's a problem. They suck. This is happening throughout the entire NFL. The entire NFL. We just saw the Miami Dolphins score 17 points against the Eagles. We saw the 49ers score 17 points in back-to-back weeks against the Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. This is not an isolated Buffalo Bills problem. What we're starting to realize is that we are starting to exit the historic offensive era that we have just gone through. This is starting to turn. The defenses with the two high safeties know how to slow down these pass-heavy attacks. The two things that lead to the most points in the NFL, and this is proven stuff based on metrics, are explosive plays and turnovers. So when you take away explosive plays and you're not creating enough turnovers on defense, you're going to have less scoring. And one other thing, too, to kind of give you an easier way to keeping this in perspective, passing touchdowns through 6 weeks this year is down 25% compared to what it was in 2018. You look at the touchdown interception ratios of some of the top quarterbacks in the league. It's not just Josh throwing interceptions and having mistakes. It's a lot of them at the current moment. And there are things that we will talk about that can help this Bills offense and improve it going forward. And I know one of the things, Kevin, you and I both want to see them is open it up more. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. It is important to note, though, with that shoulder injury, that could also be playing a factor in the lack of running. There was a clip on Sunday that Josh slid after hitting his shoulder and had a huge grimace on his face after hitting the ground. So it is possible. It's not just being conservative by nature, but they also probably don't want him getting hit at this current moment.
Yeah. What is two personnel? Good question by Spin. That's two tight ends on the field, three receivers. So they've run some formations that would have Shakir, Diggs, Davis, and Knox and Kincaid. So that would be the formation. Could it be a QB sneak? I don't believe that is you could technically do it out of that, but it's generally not three. That's three receivers, two tight ends. However you want to push it out of the field. You see here the Bills are the one topic that why this was up, Mike. You were talking about personnel a little bit. Is 11 personnel. A lot of times people are like, I wanted to use 11 personnel. They do. They use it at 52.3% of the time. And they're pretty effective out of it. And you're going to see more of it. Their EPA ranked there as third. They're pretty good on a one-game basis, running 11. So we should see some 11 coming up without Dawson Knox and his potential replacement in Quentin Morris with the high ankle. I don't think you'll see a forced missed roll out of Reggie Gilliam, nor do I think you'll see, even though I like the potential of Joel Wilson, unless the Bills make some form of tight end move. It's I don't think it's long-term for Dawson Knox. We're thinking, 4 to 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Don't know officially yet, but that's the original rumblings here of my knowledge. So you're looking at this and you're saying maybe we'll see a lot more Khalil Shakir. This is Khalil Shakir's time to shine. His snap count has gone way up. He's getting around 35 to 40% of the snaps right now. He's utilizing him. Josh is trusting him more like he did at the end of the year. This is his time to shine and prove that 11 personnel is the way to go here going forward. And you can still see that the Bills are fairly effective out of 12. They're effective throwing the ball out of 12, which is very interesting, as you can see on the screen. And they're effective, obviously, running out of 11 with those light boxes. So those are some things to consider as the Bills move forward.